Reekin Havoc.
Reekin Havoc.
News, interviews, and more.
We just reek of Huntsville Havoc hockey.
The Reekin Havoc podcast returns this week with a killer episode. I'm Tim Lambert. We've got Alex Kielczewski in the slot this week. His life has changed since his retirement after last season, and Laura Pitts will catch up with him. Another of Huntsville's greatest hits is also coming up, and we'll pass along the latest news and announcements as the Reekin Havoc podcast continues.
The Reekin Havoc podcast.
One of the worst feelings you can have is that of being stranded. Well, BT's towing, tire, and truck repair makes that a thing of the past, with 24/7 towing services and roadside assistance in the northern Alabama and southern Tennessee areas. But that's not all. They also offer truck and trailer repair, mobile welding, brake service and repair, new and used tires, and other major and minor repairs. Their name says it all, BT's Towing, Tire, and Truck Repair. For 24/7 response, call 497-8234. That's 497-8234. BT's Towing, Tire, and Truck Repair.
Athens Utilities comprises Athens Electric, Athens Gas, and Athens Water Services. Together, we are committed to providing reliable and affordable electricity, natural gas, and water and wastewater services. We operate as part of the City of Athens, and just like our city's motto of Athens is classic, Southern, character, we believe in supporting what makes our community special. Call 233-8750. Come by our office at 508 South Jefferson Street or look for the link online at athensal.us.
Got something to say? Put it on a t-shirt, or hoodie, or apron, or even an iPhone case. Just go to daddyoscustomtees.com and make it happen. Look through their selection of ready-made designs, or make one of your own. Check out their special hockey designs, too. With Daddy O's Custom Tees, you can truly have it your way. Look for Daddy O's Custom Tees on Facebook, follow them on Twitter or Instagram, or go online to daddyoscustomtees.com. That's DADDYOS Custom TEES.com. Daddy O's Custom Tees. They've got your back or front.
Let's go in
The slot.
Welcome back, hockey fans, to yet another episode of the Reekin Havoc podcast. This week, we're bringing back former player, Alex Kielczewski. We had him on the show back almost a year ago, back in June, kind of introducing himself to everybody and sharing a lot about his story. But life has changed for him in a lot of good ways within that year. So we thought it'd be a lot of fun to bring him back on. Alex, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
And like I was saying, life has kind of been a lot different. The last time we chatted with you, you were, it was off season, getting ready to go into another season of hockey. You played that season. And since then, you've kind of made some different choices and life choices and stuff and have stepped into the retirement realm. So I thought I would ask you, maybe start out a little bit about, kind of that decision and kind of what led you to that.
Yeah. Obviously a big step in my life. I've been playing hockey for, about 25 years now, since I was about 3 or 4. So, massive step, in terms of like my yearly routine and kind of like, my hobbies surrounding the sport. Basically, I think the biggest decision in my life was, I was ready to start a family. I was ready to kind of get into a more stable, career as far as money and, obviously the physical demand of hockey. Basically that is the chief drive of what, made that decision. And obviously having 2 degrees in my background, they're kind of just burning a hole in my cabinet. So I was kind of just, waiting for that day where I knew, it was going to be done.
So wait, you're telling me that minor league SPHL hockey's not making enough money for you to pay the bills? Is that what you're saying here?
Oh, absolutely. So fun story about the SPHL. They actually have, last year was the first time they raised the salary cap for a team and the players in 20 years. So we were essentially making the same amount of money as the first ever year the Havoc were, an organization, maybe even back to the Channel Cats. So, it was definitely a driving factor for me to kind of take a step in a different direction.
And I think about the kind of income that you guys are getting. And I know a lot of people say, well, maybe it doesn't matter that much. They're out there playing the game they love. Plus, we have a wonderful booster and a bunch of sponsors and different things that really make up for a lot of it. But at the end of the day, you guys aren't really making bank out there. You're really, you're doing it because you love it, but there's not a lot of money that's coming in. And I think that's something that a lot of fans, maybe even newer fans, don't realize.
Yeah. It's definitely not filling the bank account too much, but as you said, the Booster Club is fantastic for us players. They're always making sure that we have enough kind of money for groceries, and obviously the housing situation is funded by the team, which is also amazing. Keith and Becky Jeffries are just fantastic when it comes to giving us a place and all the tools we need to live a comfortable lifestyle while playing in the season.
Why do you think that, I guess, the SBHL finally decided to give something after? I mean, that's a long stretch of time in general, doing some sort of career and not getting any kind of raise for anybody. But what do you think kind of led to that?
It definitely could have been the large uptick in kind of fan attendance and the outreach that they're getting online. I know since I've joined the league, Huntsville itself has grown in terms of fan response and fan attendance. And that's not only due to us obviously playing the game of hockey, but the incredible efforts of the front office staff here and the kind of acceptance that the city of Huntsville has given to the Havoc. I think the overarching effort of Keith Jeffries every year in the ownership meetings has kind of like pushed to get that number raised up. And I guess before last year, they caved and kind of gave them that kind of pushback that everybody in the league has been waiting for.
And I'm sure that's a really good selling point also you guys are young guys. Some of you didn't even go to college. Some are in the middle of college, right out of college, and you're out here playing. And I guess you get down here and you realize that, there's still other things that have to be paid for and afforded for. So I'm sure there's a lot of different factors that go into that.
Absolutely.
I'm interested in the fact, though, so you've made the decision to retire. You talked about the financial aspect, but then the other aspect that, and I always ask the guys, this is the physical aspect. Were you, getting to a point too in your life where it was just kind of taking a toll on your body as well?
Oh, absolutely. I'm turning 29 at the end of August, and I've been playing this sport for, again, 25 years. And especially when you get to the SPHL and pro level, it starts to take a demand. Playing 56 games a year with 3 nights in a row where you're playing either at home or different cities across the U.S., it starts to kind of accumulate. And that's probably a common answer that you'd get out of any of the retirees that have gone through the Havoc the last few years. Plus, whenever you get older, obviously, it takes longer for us to recuperate. And if you really don't have that amount of time when you're in the middle of a grueling season. So
you have 2 degrees, you said, burning a hole in your pocket. I have 2 degrees and hopefully one more in a couple of weeks when I get my doctorate finished. So I understand the whole burning degree hole in your pocket thing. What kind of within that, having that education sitting there, you weren't using it, what did you decide you wanted to do with what that was, and kind of how was that kind of transitioned into what you're doing with the career?
So my undergrad degree is in Homeland Security, and my master's degree is in counterterrorism. So these are very, I wouldn't say age critical roles, but they're very long-term career oriented. That meaning you put in your time and then you kind of receive the financial benefits towards the 5-year, 10-year, 15-year mark. And I'm not getting any younger. So the biggest thing for me was trying to get my foot in the door, get a little bit of experience under my belt. And it helped me transition into the career I'm doing right now, which is working in the defense industry for a privatized defense company called Axient. They are Huntsville locals, so I have recently moved back down to Huntsville. And I actually wanted to give kind of a big shout out to, I don't know if he's a season ticket holder. I believe he is, but he's a super fan in my eyes, and he's a fantastic guy. But Brian Anderson really helped me kind of reach this milestone in my life and secure a career in something that I know I can do for years to come. And it was through his efforts that actually helped me land this position that I'm in right now. And honestly, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the support that he had shown me throughout the season, and then after the season was done.
That's awesome. Isn't it nice to have those mentors of just people that you wouldn't expect that kind of step into your life the next place to get you to that next point in your career? I think that's really neat. So it's funny also that you said you stayed in Huntsville or came back to Huntsville. It seems like all of you guys are leaving and retiring from the Havoc and finding ways to make yourselves known still in the Huntsville area. So the funny thing when we were talking, so 2 degrees in, counterterrorism, and what was the other one?
Homeland Security.
Homeland Security. Okay. What made you decide that those were 2 things that you wanted to think of as a career? Because I know at the time, you're still playing hockey. That's still something that you're interested in, but you were going to school, and those were the 2 things that you chose to kind of go into. What was the drive behind that area and wanting to use that as a career?
It's actually a little bit of a 2-parter. Obviously I've had interest in the defense and homeland security area since I was young. I always followed the news and kind of watched intently on our national security. But it wasn't really at the forefront of my interest going into college. So I went to Becker College in Worcester, Massachusetts. And at the time when I was applying, they had a fantastic video game design program. And I am a very big video game nerd. So I initially applied to go and start that program, but there were scheduling conflicts with the hockey team schedule and then some of the freshman year classes schedules. So I had to make a quick pivot to something else that I was also interested in, and it happened to be the criminal justice spectrum.
And what did you think that you might, did you intend for some sort of career doing something like you're doing right now, or were you thinking more law enforcement, something around that area?
I was definitely more looking at the defense side. We had a law enforcement degree in the school that I attended for 4 years, and it's a very I would say life-threatening, but police officers and law enforcement give their livelihood to the craft. And that's not something that I felt comfortable at the time whenever I was trying to contemplate what future that I held. So realistically, it was the government, working for defense in the government and kind of working for national security was a very big pushing point for that.
At this point, we should just say you need to go work for the Secret Service. We could have like our favorite hockey player, protecting, presidential candidates and all kinds of crazy stuff. So.
Yeah. Funny enough, I applied the last 2 summers for the Secret Service and got accepted in both times, but chose not to go down that avenue.
What? I was just sitting here trying to make a joke, and here you are confirming all of my hilarity on this. Okay, you need to tell us this story. What made you want to go work for the Secret Service? Tell me what you are allowed to tell me, I guess. Should I say that?
There's nothing under classification for that information. So realistically, it was just me being like, well, the Secret Service is obviously a part of national defense. So I was intrigued by the ability to kind of provide personal security for some of our nation's more important figures. And that was something that I enjoyed, but it is on the law enforcement spectrum. But realistically, playing hockey, I've kind of felt like I've been under attack a lot. So I was kind of more comfortable being like the defensive structure for, say, any kind of political figurehead that our nation might have.
Well, I hear that they're looking for a director now, so you should put your name back in there. You never know. Years from now, you could be our Huntsville star out there actually running the show might not be a bad idea at this point. So that's really cool. That's a kind of a cool thing. So, back working in Huntsville, all that stuff. But in the middle of all this stuff, now you've gotten married too. It's like you retired, you got a new job, you're getting married. Share us a little bit about marriage bliss, about your wedding, all that fun stuff.
Marriage life is pretty much the same. It was an absolutely beautiful wedding. We held it in Warwick, Rhode Island. It's where my wife is from, and I got to invite some former Havoc players, current Havoc players, and just kind of got to celebrate with my friends and family and my wife's friends and family, and just kind of stoke in the love that we have for each other, and kind of just enjoy a good time, to be honest.
What was it like bringing back some of those former players and former teammates maybe you hadn't even seen in a year or even longer? What was that kind of like to be able to have that reunion moment with them?
It was nice. One of the former players, Rob Derrer, he ended up making the trip up to Rhode Island, which is super awesome. We always had a good friendship and kind of a good rapport, so it was really fun to have him there to be able to celebrate with me. And a really funny aspect of another player was goalie Nick Latinovich, who was my roommate when he was in Huntsville and happened to be the goalie that beat us in the finals last year. So you can understand that he held that over my head for a little bit.
So that's interesting too. Okay, on the ice, we know there's competition, there's all these things, but I think we also forget that, you guys are friends too. There's that level of competition, that level of rivalry, so to speak. But then it's different sometimes off the ice. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I wonder what kind of conversations kind of even happened around some of the Havoc players, knowing that, hey, the guy that's the reason that we lost is here, but the same token, he's probably still a pretty cool guy that, came to your wedding.
Yeah. So I always like to say the second that you get in that locker room and start putting on the gear, it's a different story. Like, we're friends away from the rink, but when we get to the rink, we're not friends. So that kind of goes into it. I'm a little more carefree and free spirited as far as like being friends with guys on the ice. I always joked with Nick whenever either one I'd score or two, he'd save a shot of mine. I always give him some crap about that, but there's a lot of players in the league where not only did maybe you played college together, maybe you played junior hockey together, maybe you knew each other off the ice and you ended up in the same league, but on different. So there's always that little sense of camaraderie and respect whenever you are playing against someone that you know and are friends with. But I feel like the trash talking's a little more lethal when it comes to friends on the ice. So that is one of the fun sides, I guess, of having one of your friends on the other team.
Well, not to bring up, bad memories from the past season, but I am curious to get your kind of thoughts, transition into some Havoc hockey talk itself. What are your thoughts about the season in general? A lot of new guys, new coaches, even though they weren't new, but they were just in two individuals in new different roles, and you guys are learning from them in different roles now than them being, on the ice with you, so to speak. So what were your thoughts kind of as an overall of the season that you just left?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was a great season. It was about as perfect as it could get up until the outcome at the end. But realistically, us returning players at the beginning of the year, we had high expectations, not only for ourselves, but for the new players coming in that would hold a certain high standard as far as like how Havoc hockey is played, and kind of embracing the Havoc way is what we talk about. So realistically, I was very, very proud and very excited for the fact that all these young players kind of bought in at an early stage and really sought to bring the best out of themselves and bring the best out of the team. Going into the playoffs, we knew that we were going to have a steep schedule ahead. We've played all the teams by then and really just kind of had to accept that if we play the way that we know we can play, I don't think there's a single team that could have played with us. And obviously going into the finals with winning game one, we kind of like solidified the fact that we know we can beat them. Even in this kind of crunch time scenario, and realistically, it came down to the nuts and bolts of kind of understanding team chemistry and team play towards the end of obviously game 2 and 3 in Peoria. They kind of understood how a championship team needed to play in those games, and their older roster kind of helps solidify them that championship and how they wanted to play.
I know there was a lot of, just blah sadness. We were, losing that last game, getting right to the final and not winning the cup. After that was over with and you guys, had to come home and kind of had to regroup a little bit about what had happened. What was kind of the talk about that? I mean, how were guys talking? What was this thing, or was this the kind of thing where at the end of the season, nobody says a word about it and you just let it be?
We definitely had a few chats about it in the moment, and kind of in that bus ride home, we really strayed away from it, just kind of tried to celebrate ourselves and the team that we put together and the season that we had. But as the days went on, I think we kind of started to ruminate a little bit on what could have been, how we could have done differently, and kind of those areas of uncertainty that led us to kind of losing that game 3. And I always, being the only veteran defenseman on the D corps at the time of the finals, minus Derek Pearl, who was in and out of the lineup, if we really had our captain, Don Procopio, it would have been a large scale game changer. And that was one of the main things I couldn't stop thinking about. Obviously, with his very, very horrific injury and the trajectory that it set us on at the end of that season, there's nothing we could have done. But I think that was kind of the clear thought process for a considerable amount of us veteran players in the team, and just just kind of accepting the fate that was dealt us. That
hand of cards that you get dealt.
Yeah,
you can't do anything about, right? Well, even in that moment, for you personally, after Dom got hurt, it really changed the trajectory of our season. And like you said, many different ways. Well, how do you feel, or what do you feel you did to step up? Like where were you at in your game? And then this happens, and then it's kind of like, oh, I got to do something. I got to step up. There's something I've got to do. What was that for you? What was that moment?
I think that moment was understanding that I really needed to try to play a little more physical of a game, because Dom's kind of a physical powerhouse. He's a net front enforcer, and realistically, he's the voice of our team. And I obviously wasn't a part of the captaincy or leadership group, but off the ice, I felt like I needed to kind of take like more of a vocal approach with some of these younger guys and stray them away from getting that end of the season fatigue and kind of get them buckled up for playoffs. Because as you can tell, playoffs is grueling. It's a critical point that we've all been playing for, like the 56 games. Yeah, they matter, but when it comes to playoffs, they don't really matter. So, and as far as play, I don't know. I felt like I was having a pretty good season, putting up a little bit of points, which is nice, but I don't think anything really changed as far as how I was going to be playing. I think it just felt like maybe I might be logging a few more minutes every night, trying to kind of take away from the burden of some of these younger D, but they all stepped up. So realistically, it kind of solidified our team on and off the ice. We knew what we had to do, and we had to do it for Dom.
Was there ever a moment when there were some of the rookie guys, some of the young guys who were new at all this, that may have seen some falter, like, oh, this is a Dom's hurt, what are we going to do? Or did everyone seem to really, everybody in a way, step up? Because, sometimes you get young ones on a team of any kind, and it's kind of like a shocker, right? These things are not supposed to happen. You're not supposed to lose your captain to a horrific injury in the middle of the season and all those things. And they're also thinking about themselves. Did you ever have anything like that happen with some of the young ones?
Not really. Just because these guys have played hockey their whole lives, and they've probably seen injuries before that have led people out for multiple weeks or months or half a year. But realistically, most of these younger guys just kind of knew that it was going to be a tougher battle because they had their captain, they had their leader go down in front of the Huntsville fans, and kind of just felt like not only did they need to step up in their play, but they needed to kind of help build a structure that was, okay, we're not panicking. We can do this. We know we have the personnel, regardless of if our captain is there or not. So realistically, no, we didn't really have that kind of falter. I think the only thing that needed to be said was that, hey, like Dom came in and just said, hey guys, I'm all right. I had surgery. Like, go out there and play Havoc hockey.
Going forward, new season's going to come up. You're going to now, be a spectator of the sport. What's your advice going forward to the team? You could give them some advice.
I guess the only advice I would have are for some of the newer guys that don't really know how it's going to be going as far as the season and the toll it takes on your body, but it's kind of just maximizing the amount of rest that you can get and trying to keep yourself in a neutral shape that will help you give the best possible hockey that you can give to this team. And my advice for the older players is just soak it in, because just like me, you don't really know when the journey ends, and kind of like the beauty of the game can come at any point.
We'll be back with more of the Reekin Havoc podcast.
My name is Joel, and I came to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in December of 1987 to be treated for osteosarcoma, which is bone cancer. We didn't know anything about St. Jude. We didn't know what they meant, or that, when we got here, what we would do, how it would be taken care of. And when we arrived, we found out that my family wasn't going to have to pay for any of my treatment, not for my medicine, not for travel, not for housing, not for food. St. Jude was going to cover all that. St. Jude supported me in every way, from, taking that financial burden off my parents to making sure that all of my family was included in this time. St. Jude literally means everything to me. I get to go home to my family tonight. I get to cook dinner for them. That's what you're giving. You are giving us everything by supporting St. Jude. So thank you so much.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
This is Glennie Tulio, and you're listening to the Reekin Havoc podcast.
We'll take you down memory lane for a second. Maybe share one of your favorite, goals that you scored. If you had one in your mind, if you could remember of a goal that you've scored, that was one of your, top of all of them.
So I have two. Both happened this year, which is great. Well, I should say three. So the first two goals I ever scored were in the same game, and they're in Pensacola, my first year, and those will always be special because they're my first ever pro goals and helped me realize that, I can compete in this league. I can do the right things to make sure that I help this team. My second one was a shootout game winner against Roanoke at the beginning of the year. That was the first time I've been in a shootout since I switched positions to defense, and my dad was in town, so it was a really special moment for both of us to be able to see me kind of go in a shootout again, and not only that, but be able to score and win the game for our team. Which was, I'm just grateful that Stu and Ty gave me the opportunity to kind of prove that even though I play defense, I can play offense just as good. My third one will have to be on Melissa George night, also against Roanoke. It was just that night is so special, not only to the players, to the staff, to the city of Huntsville, but it holds a very special place in my heart of just being like such a good cause and a good kind of memory that I'll hold on forever, because I'm able to contribute not only last year, but this year by scoring and making sure that that we win, and then that the people of Huntsville will feel excited and kind of give a little bit more money to the cause that is so dear to our hearts.
Okay. Memorable fight. Maybe one you were a part of or one you maybe got to witness. What would that be for you?
Well, I've only been in 2 fights, which is great. But I have a memorable fight for me. One of my 2 fights. I ended up fighting in Macon against Tucker Scantleberry. Didn't go so well for me. I came in from behind him, tried to start something, and he spun around and immediately put me in a headlock and just ragdolled me around for about 45 seconds. So that was about the extent of my fighting career.
And that's when you decided, nope, not doing that again.
Yeah, exactly. And beauty of that is Huntsville actually traded for him within the next few days. So he was my roommate the next week. So we got to talking, and we actually became pretty good friends after that, which is funny. But a memorable fight that I witnessed was Hayden Holton versus Cole Reginato in Evansville my first year. And I don't think I've seen more punches land and connect to faces in my life. It was absolutely ridiculous.
And I'm pretty sure Cole probably won that fight. He doesn't lose many.
Oh yeah, he does not lose. I mean, they were both trading blows, like punch, 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 punch. And as much as Hayden Holton wanted to win that fight, Reg was just too mean, too gritty, and too strong for him.
You mentioned a second ago that you were talking about how you felt like that shot against Roanoke when in that shootout kind of helped show that, you don't just have to play offense. You can play defense. You can do it. Tell me a little bit about the swap. I've not really had a lot of players talk to me, about swapping from, playing mostly offensive to defensive. So to talk a little bit about like, why did you do that? How did that happen?
Yeah. So, me being 6'4" and about 195 pounds, I was always a little bit slower as a forward. I played it my whole life, but this was also before I grew 10 inches in a year. So I was always very skilled and very focused on the play of hockey rather than just kind of focused on hitting or skating. I always saw the ice well. So every summer when I was playing in Dallas with most of my friends, all of them were forwards except for one guy who was a goalie. So every time that we would play men's league, they all played at higher levels than me. So I guess I always drew the short end of the stick and had to play defense. Turns out I was pretty good at defense. Kind of got used to it, and I think it was my freshman year. So I got recruited as a forward, played the entire year as a forward my freshman year, and then a player who used to play at the Havoc, Brian Parsons, he actually got suspended in the last game of our season my freshman year in college, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to play defense?" And I was like, "Sure." So I played defense that game in the playoffs, did pretty well, and then the next 2 years after that, played defense in college, and just kind of grew a knack for playing it, got better at it, and really just kind of settled into the fact that even though I was a forward my whole life, I always looked on the defensive side of the game and the defensive side of the puck. But that doesn't come without the trials and tribulations of playing defense at a higher level, or the adjustment that it comes from kind of learning the craft of playing defense. So I feel like some of the biggest areas of adjustment that it took were not only my gap setting within the forwards rushing the puck on the D, but also just kind of having a more physical mindset when it came to getting the puck away from the forwards in our own zone.
With all that in mind, do you think you're going to, join a beer league or some other men's league, or just go play some hockey on your own and, swap back and forth? Or have you decided?
Absolutely.
Okay. I didn't know if you had decided you were going to completely hang those skates up or not.
Oh, no. I can never step away from hockey. I'm going to be playing until I'm like 65. It was sad because when I moved away from Massachusetts, I left my current beer league team right before they were starting playoffs, and we had won the last 3 summers straight. So hopefully they're doing fine without me. But I am currently a free agent in Huntsville. If anybody that listens to this needs a guy on their men's league team, I'd be more than willing to come out and play because I definitely miss it. I haven't played in like 2 weeks, so hopefully I'm not a little rusty, but
I think that's a great sell. I have a perfectly conditioned former minor league hockey player who is currently, looking for a job out there to go play some beer league hockey. So I think get some advertisements out there. We'll try to see if we can. It'd be kind of fun to see you back out there. Would you, if you did go play, would you want to do defense or would you want to go back to offense?
That's the beauty of beer league. I could care less as long as I'm not playing goalie.
Now, why would you not want to be goalie?
It's fun, but you got to be a certain type of crazy to play goalie. And I think all of them will tell you that, like, getting hit with pucks every game 30 times is just not something that I want to sign up for.
But some of those guys, like you said, that's their thing. They love doing that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They chose the wrong position when they started.
Exactly. Okay, if there was one rule in hockey that you could change, and it can be at the minor league level if you want, or it can be at the pro, it doesn't matter, at the NHL level, what would that rule be? Change one rule, what would it be?
That's a good question. So I don't know. Let me think about this. I have a few that I don't like, but I feel like the delay of game penalties when you chip it out of your own zone and it doesn't touch the glass, those ones always irked me. I think I had more of those penalties than I did any other penalty, which sucks. But I understand it's for good reason because you can obviously just stop the game whenever you're tired and flip it over the glass. But yeah, I think that would be the one that I would change. I'd get a little bit of backlash, but there's a stipulation behind that. I'd say you can't get off the ice if you do it. You can just stop the play. But again, I also understand why they implemented that rule, so I can't argue for or against it.
And then, what were your thoughts on this past NHL season, this playoff season, when we had some Florida Canada action going on? Were you following all that? What did you think about it?
Oh yeah, I definitely followed it. So personally, I'm a Chicago Blackhawks fan. So the last 2 years have been absolutely horrific to watch. Obviously, we got the first round pick last year, second round pick this year, or second overall, I should say. But it was definitely interesting. I also slightly root for my hometown team, the Stars. So seeing them lose in the conference final to Edmonton, I kind of jumped on the Edmonton bandwagon and was cheering for them. But I thought this was one of the best Stanley Cup Finals series that you could have. Obviously, Florida going up 3-0 and Edmonton clawing back to force Game 7 was something that the spectators enjoyed probably more than the players did.
Were you happy with who ended up bringing the cup home or not? No.
Yeah, because obviously you hear some of the stories about not only the players, but the big one being the coach. The head coach had the most, they used the most coached NHL games without winning the Stanley Cup. So we always only hear good things about Paul Maurice. So I was definitely a little happy. I'm not really a fan of most of Florida, the Panthers, but obviously they worked hard enough to get themselves in that position and then obviously solidified it with winning in Game 7. So I guess, yeah, I was happy. Were
the two teams that ended up in the finals who you wanted to be in there, or would you have rather seen a different kind of matchup?
So I think initially I picked Dallas versus New York in the finals. Obviously I would have liked seeing Dallas win against Edmonton and move on and try and play in the finals, but I was happy to see McDavid try to be able to win that, and obviously Paul Maurice be able to win that. So I can't say I was upset, but I would have loved to see Dallas versus Florida or Dallas versus New York.
Okay, so getting ready to wrap up our conversation a little bit. I'm curious if you mentioned that you were a big gaming nerd. Is that correct? I think that's the language that you said earlier.
Absolutely.
Okay,
yeah,
so
I was a big video game nerd.
Okay, so what are you gaming right now? Like, what's in your console, and what kind of console are you using? That's kind of a big, important question.
So it's a big question, and you ready for this? To show you how much of a nerd I am, I don't play any console. I play on my custom built PC.
Of course you do. Of course you do. Like a true gaming nerd would. That makes complete sense to me.
Any of my teammates that have lived with me have probably come into my room, seen both my monitors up and my PC on, and me just playing away. But a game that's been out for, I think, about 14 years now. It's on an international scale. It's called League of Legends. It is absolutely one of my favorite games of all time. I love that game. Will always give it praise and kind of give it to the fact that, I mean, it kills my time better than anything I've been able to find. Another game I like to play is called Destiny 2. Just another fun type of off-genre game that allows me to kind of give some of that escapism to a life that I was bored all the time. So it always helped me get through it.
You know, I'm really surprised that you didn't say that you had the new EA Sports college football game that you were playing, because it seems to be like the thing. So I'm really surprised that was not what you were going to tell me. That's interesting.
Well, it's first on the docket. I'll tell you that. I don't have Wi-Fi yet at my house, but whenever I get it, I will 100% be purchasing it and kind of giving it some of my time.
But what will you be playing it on, your computer or?
No, so I own an Xbox.
Okay.
It doesn't ever get turned on anymore, but it will for that game. I'll tell you that.
Well, I can assure you, if you're like the rest of the male population, including my husband, you'll probably sit and play it over and over and over and over and over. So
absolutely.
Apparently, it's like the thing right now to be doing and stuff. Okay. You have the opportunity to put a hockey rink anywhere in the entire world, or where would you stick a hockey rink if you could?
Where would I stick a hockey rink? That's a good question. Well, there's a lot around the country, but not around the world. If I had to put a hockey rink anywhere, it's not the most sustainable location, but I would put one in one of the tropical islands. So like Jamaica, St. Thomas, St. Martin, just some of those beautiful areas where you can step out of the rink and kind of go into a different land, going from warm to cold, cold to warm.
Yeah. Okay. I could handle that. I could totally do that. Okay. Well, now that you said that, speaking of warm, okay, you're on a deserted island. You can only take 3 things with you. What are those 3 things that you can take with you?
3 things. All right. I'm going to be logical about this because that's how I am.
Of course you are. Of course, because that's why the Secret Service wanted to hire you for your logic. I totally get it.
I'm taking a 30-foot rope. I'm taking a hatchet, and I'm taking a red Sharpie so I can make a Wilson on a coconut.
Good answer. Very good answer. Okay, I love it. Okay. Think about your teammates that you've had over time. Okay, I'm going to let you roast them for a second. I thought it'd be kind of fun since, you're retired and you don't have to room with them, or, you're married. They don't have to come to anything. I mean, I guess the next event would be like the birth of a kid or a funeral, right? So, I mean, let's look at it from that perspective. So who was the loudest one on the bus? Who was loudest on the bus?
Each year, or do you want overall through my 3-year planner?
Doesn't matter. I mean, if you,
okay,
how you answer.
I'll give you the overarching answer. 1 of 1, Sam Hunter. Last year, I think he wore number 5. He was by far the loudest individual I think I've ever been around. There's a close second this year. Close second with David Thompson. He was also a very loud individual, and he slept next to me on the bus, so I'd hear it no matter what.
Okay, who was the messiest person? It could have been in the locker room or on the bus, or I guess even a roommate.
I'm going to nominate myself, not at 1, but I'm definitely up there when it comes to being messy in public spaces. But let's see. I think one of the Elk Stamps, I think it was Phil Elkstam. No, it was Doug. Doug would take off his gear and kind of leave it out and not hang it up yet, and he'd walk around with the top part of the gear on, which I thought was ridiculous. But he is Swedish, so that does make sense. But I think he's very clean with his own things, but around the locker room, I'll give him some crap here and say that he was a little bit dirty.
Okay, who was always late to everything?
Well, that's like one of the pinnacles of our kind of teachings is you don't be late. But I'd always say that Mason Palmer would show up just in time. So he was one of those guys that would show up just in time.
Okay, who was the player that would get on coach's nerve the quickest? And it can be Coach Stu or, whoever.
I'd probably say Reggie. Reggie likes to joke. He's always fun to be around, but sometimes he likes to poke at Stu and Ty. But another one would be Fish, because Fish is the exact same way. He's always trying to get at Stu, kind of get a rouse out of him.
Okay, and then the last one, which one had the overall always had the best attitude? Like it didn't matter how bad you guys had played the night before, got your butts kicked, you had to come back in, or it just been a long weekend. Like who always had the best attitude?
This was a simple answer. It's Derek Pearl. Derek is just an amazing individual, and I think he was always kind of that even keel voice and spirit that helped not only me but most of the guys in the team kind of feel like, hey, it's not that bad. Obviously, we got more games to play, or kind of keep us even whenever we're too high after winning a game and know that we have to play the next day. Okay,
well, before I wrap up and kind of get one last question in, I was going to let our social media girl, Catherine, ask you something. She had something. She is working on some stuff, and she had a question that she wanted to ask you. Catherine?
Okay. Actually, I have 2 comments and a question.
Okay.
First comment is I can answer for the male population that college, the NCAA 25 is very much worth the hype. I have put in many hours alongside.
I love that.
I can. The question is, plan on being like a season ticket holder or going to a bunch of games?
I absolutely plan on going to a bunch of games, especially this year. But with the amount of season tickets already sold this year, I don't plan on being a season ticket holder just yet. I might try and finagle around and get my contacts up in the front office for next season to get myself a better season ticket, probably lower bowl if I could.
Hey, I have the solution. The solution is to become the head of security at the Von Braun, and then you'll always be there.
That's exactly right.
I mean,
that is true.
Mr. Secret Service here. I think that's, So anyway, sorry, Catherine. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're fine. My final comment was just this was my first season, like going to games, and you were just one of the first ones to stand out. So I was just going to say I really enjoyed watching you play.
Absolutely, I appreciate that, and it's always something that kind of drove me to be a outstanding public figure in the light of Huntsville sports.
Alex, as we kind of wrap this up and we come to a close of this conversation, how do you sum up your Havoc career? And is that even possible? Can one even sum up the career that they have when they get to be a part of the pack?
Yeah, they can sum it up. It might be hard for others, but I'll do my best to do it right now. I just felt like growth and then gratefulness, obviously, for the opportunity. When I first came to the team, it was 6 games in 2021, and being given that opportunity to kind of play a few games, and then every week after that, the opportunity to stay on the team and keep playing was something that's very special to me. And Glenn DeTulio gave me that opportunity and believed in me and believed in my ability. And obviously focusing on growth every day, every week, every month was something that was kind of critical to the outcome I had as a player. I had never really put up that amount of points over 3 seasons in the last 8 years since joining the team. So it was definitely something that, kind of helped summarize my ability to learn, grow, and play at this level. And again, I'm just incredibly grateful for the opportunity I was given, and just enjoyed every second of it, to be honest with you.
Well, Alex, we appreciate you being a part of the team. My husband and my kid both really loved watching you play also. They're sitting over here in the corner every time when somebody talks and they're saying stuff. And that was one of the things I guess they thought of too, is the fact that, you were a very standout player. You were a very skilled player, but you put a lot of heart into it. And that's what really stood out to me, seeing you out there on the ice. So I'm going to hate not seeing you. I'm not going to hate not having Killer out there. But life goes on and life happens, and that's the part of the whole process when it comes to anything. So, Alex, thank you so much for being a part of the team, and thank you for taking some time and, catching up with us and letting us know what life is like and all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very grateful that you guys put together this podcast for us players to kind of share our side of the story and a little bit about ourselves that some of the fans don't really usually get. So thank you again for doing that. And thank you again for having me on.
Well, you are so welcome. We appreciate having you. Hockey fans, it's a slum right now. I'm really sad. We don't have any hockey. I mean, the Olympics are coming up, but it's not even the Winter Olympics. So I can't even talk hockey, with the Summer Olympics. So just hold on. It'll be here before we know it. We'll be right back into the rink playing, watching everyone. For those of you who are new to the podcast and have, never heard Alex's story, go back into our archives back to June 23rd of last year. He tells his story, how he ended up down here in Huntsville, all of those fun things to kind of start you off on his journey now that you've kind of listened to the ending of his journey. So until next time, hockey fans, stay sharp in the slot and keep reeking of Huntsville Havoc hockey.
The Reekin Havoc Podcast.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Join us now for Huntsville's greatest hits, where current and former players recount their most memorable dropping of the gloves.
Former Channel Cats tornado and Havoc right wing Chris George.
We were playing the Memphis River Kings, and Jonathan Dubois, who was my center man, he got kind of cross-checked behind the play by one of the Memphis players. Patrick Clement is his name. You never forget. So I just, skated down and then, without even thinking, dropped my gloves and started trying to throw punches as many as I could because, this guy was a bigger, tougher guy and caught everybody off guard doing that because when you look at my career and my statistics, you notice my penalty minutes are not high. I was basically defending a teammate. So that was one. And the second one I can remember was we were playing the Macon Whoopee, and there was a little scrum behind the net, and I got kind of cheap shotted, and I threw an elbow that dropped a guy. Next thing I know, there's a little melee going on, and I'm getting jumped by two guys. And that wasn't one of my proudest moments, but it happens.
We'll be back with the Reekin Havoc podcast.
In June of 2005, our twin girls were delivered, Melissa and Ann Catherine, and they were born 14 weeks early.
Amy and Chris George talk about the Melissa George Neonatal Memorial Fund.
They both weighed less than 2 pounds. Ann Catherine was 115 and Melissa was 1'9". Melissa lived for a couple of hours, but all of the medical technology in the world just could not have saved her, and she passed away while she was in the NICU. Chris realized pretty early that God had given us a platform that we could use to try to help people. So Chris and I started the Melissa George Neonatal Memorial Fund at Huntsville Hospital.
To know that Melissa's name is living on, her legacy continues. And I think that was very important to Amy and I, is why, the fund is named after her. Because for 7 weeks, Melissa fought so that Ann Catherine would have a chance to live. And I think that we wouldn't be doing her name any justice if we didn't carry on, because we know we wanted to honor her and honor her legacy. And the community, Huntsville Havoc, the community in Huntsville itself, they've rallied around that. And it's been a wonderful support system for us And I think for a lot of families too, when they see total strangers that are giving.
We're online at HuntsvilleHospitalFoundation.org. Click on the Melissa George Neonatal Memorial Fund and you can give that way.
There's no donation that's too small, and every dollar is just as important as the next one. And if you're giving, then we understand you're giving because you care. And that's what's important, is that we've learned over the years that people give because they care.
And you can volunteer. If you're interested in that, you can click on the volunteer tab to fill out an application. We are grateful for any type of support because we know that once we pull those dollars together, we can do big things.
For more information on the Melissa George Neonatal Memorial Fund, visit HuntsvilleHospitalFoundation.org.
Hey, this is Freak Daddy, the voice of the Huntsville Havoc, and you're listening to the Reekin Havoc podcast.
The Havoc signed forward Zach Tyson for the upcoming season. Tyson comes from Dublin, Ohio, where he played at Division III Hobart College, appearing in 113 games and totaling 38 goals and 54 assists as alternate captain his junior year and captain in his senior season when the team won the 2023 National Championship. His pro career started at Mont Blanc, a part of France's Division I league. He played 18 games and scored 17 points there. We'd also like to say congratulations to Dominic Procopio on his recent marriage. The 2024 On Ice Summer Youth Camp will be July 22nd through 25th for ages 8 to 14. Cost is $330 for skaters and $275 for goalies. Go to the menu at HuntsvilleHavoc.com, select Fan Zone, and click on Havoc Youth Camp to register. The annual Showcase Camp will be July 27th and 28th at the Huntsville Ice Sports Center. 8 players from last year's camp ended up playing professional hockey last season. For more information, go online to HuntsvilleHavoc.com. Season tickets for next year are now on sale. Full, half, or quarter season plans, as well as group tickets, are available. Go to the menu at HuntsvilleHavoc.com and click on the Tickets tab. The 5th Annual Havoc Classic Golf Tournament at Cherokee Ridge will be August 26th. Door prizes will be given to each golfer. Shotgun start will be at 1, with registration opening at noon. Cost for a foursome is $500. For more information and registration, go online to HuntsvilleHavoc.com/Havoc-Classic. The annual Meet the Team party will be October 21st from 5 till 7 p.m. for both season ticket holders and the general public. In addition to meeting the team, season ticket holders can pick up their gifts. There will be a backstage tour of the VBC. You'll get a preview of the recently installed giant video boards, and there will be complimentary food. Go to HuntsvilleHavoc.com to RSVP. Summer hours for the Havoc front office are Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. till 4 p.m.
Become a member of Chaos Kids Club today. Download the Kids Club app for your iOS or Android device or online at chaoskidsclub.com.
The Reekin Havoc podcast.
For those returning from military service, the transition back to civilian life isn't always easy. Retired Marine Gunnery Sergeant Bill Cook talks about still serving veterans.
The mission of still serving veterans is to serve and honor veterans and their families by empowering them to build meaningful lives. And we do that through connecting to fulfilling careers, getting the benefits they deserve, or the services that they need. We have never charged anybody anything for our services. A group of business leaders in town felt there was a need to help the seriously wounded make that transition back into civilian life. Employment services, VA benefits, and connections to other community services. That's what we do. If you're a veteran and you need help, please get a hold of us. Go to that website, ssv.org, and you can find out pretty much anything you need to know about still serving veterans.
In Huntsville, call 256-883-7035. For tickets, official Huntsville Havoc merchandise, and more, go to HuntsvilleHavoc.com. Visit our website at ReekinHavoc.com. Look for us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Threads. And listen, follow, and subscribe to the Reekin Havoc podcast on your favorite platform to keep up with the only weekly podcast covering the Huntsville Havoc, the Reekin Havoc podcast.